Is it a VSKA or a VSKA?
I have no idea.
All right, well, we're here today with MrGunsNGear, doing a video that I said I was never going to do, frankly, but we're actually verifying the results, really, of a 5,000 round test. You had just done your 5,000 round test, right?
Correct, yep. I put 5,000 rounds through the rifle. I believe it had 4 malfunctions, and at the end was still in Headspace. That caused some uproar on the internet. Full disclosure, like I said in my video, Century did send this rifle out for the test. But today we're gonna throw another 1,000 rounds through it and just kind of see how it looks at the end. But you've checked it out so far.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really shocked with the lack of wear. I mean, for a gun that's been through 5,000 rounds, it's holding up fairly well, I'll admit. So we'll see. We'll put another 1,000 rounds through it. We'll see what happens. And honestly, I was just telling him a second ago that, you know, 6,000 rounds should be just warming up your AK. A good AK should be able to last 10 times that. A couple barrel changes. You should have to change out the fire control group a couple times. Just let that thing go. But really, we're just verifying the results. Not trying to make the gun fail. We just want to report results. We got the no-go gauges and everything. Just making sure that he's not full of shit. He actually did put all these rounds through the gun, and that we're showing you guys what happened, basically.
Absolutely.
So, these are still cast parts. You can definitely tell because you can see marks here on the bottom of the carrier where it's cast, just like the RAS 47. And a little aside, one of the things I can never figure out about why Century chose to do it this way is the lightning grooves on the bolt carrier. Never really understood that, because if you see pictures of the RAS 47 where these have cracked and break, it cracked and broke, they're always right here on these lightning cuts. You take the most geometrically sound shape possible and you put cuts right down the side. I never got it, but this is holding up remarkably well, in my opinion, for something that's already been through 5,000 rounds. Wear pattern on the back of the bolt. Like I said, it's holding up remarkably well. There's nothing that's obviously deformed or anything like that. So tell you what, we're going to go ahead and put this back in the gun, put it back together, run another 1,000 rounds through it, and then we're going to compare afterward. But just to verify real quick, this does pass the no-go gauge test. Got our gauge in there. Put it in the rifle. And it does not close on the no-go. It doesn't even start to close. So 5,000 rounds doing remarkably well, frankly, as much as, you know, I may have incentive to say otherwise. So let's put another 1,000 rounds through it and see where we're at. All right, these are actually the first rounds I've ever personally put through a VSKA. Is it a VSKA or a VSKA?
I have no idea.
Nobody's been able to tell me yet, and the Century reps have said it both ways.
Yeah, sounds about right.
All right, let's say VSKA. Already getting her smoking a little bit. I can already tell this is going to be a long day. You're like a damn hairband.
You do. Or a man bun.
Oh, I've been avoiding that for a long time. The internet would never forgive me. That is going to get very old very quick. What's up?
All right, guys, another 150 rounds we're going to throw through it here. Should note we are letting it cool down in between mags just to not kill it. Malfunction. Double feed. You guys can see there 2 rounds are trying to go in the chamber at the same time, when in fact there's actually only room for 1.
Cue the double penetration jokes in the comments section.
Indeed. And last mag for this string. We'll let it cool down and get on it again.
Now, did you count to 30 every single time?
Every time.
Every time? Cool. Good. Just making sure. Gotta have a new respect for Rob Ski now, because this is gonna get really tiring. That's how you build up that index finger strength, ladies. So we're at about 450 rounds right now. At the end of this 5 magazines, we'll be at around 600. All right, we got another malfunction here. All right, let's give that another try. We're probably technically going to be like 5 rounds light on 1,000 just because of the malfunctions, the round dropping out. Who's counting? This video is really making me want to have like an 80s action hero like headband or some shit. I know why Rambo did it now. Let's mix it up a little bit for variety. So these are 5 magazines, so 150 each, so that's...
Yeah, you'll be at 750 after this.
Okay, cool. 3/4 of the way there. Losing daylight. Really wish my right ear pro had kind of filled in a little bit before I started that, but I had already committed. Next time I shake Rob Ski's hand, I'm going to specifically look for that index finger, because he's probably going to have, like, this finger is like atrophied, and this one looks like Schwarzenegger. Malfunction. So this one is a failure to feed. So you see there, the nose of the cartridge just hit the side of the barrel instead of going into the chamber there. Another malfunction. Got a double feed there. So that's 2 malfunctions in 1 mag. Let's see if she's starting to slow down a little bit. That was that 150.
All right, guys, got 150 more to go through it. See how she does. Let her cool down, 100 more, and that'll do it.
Last 100 rounds, home stretch. Last bit. All right, I think that concludes it. 6,000 rounds and I still have a face. I have not been quiet about my dislike of Century in the past as far as how they've run their US made stuff, but I'm not out here to report anything that didn't happen. And honestly, I've been pleasantly surprised by the lack of deformation on like the back of the bolt and things like that. I'll include some photos in here as I'm talking about it, but you can see the wear pattern on the back of the bolt where the two lugs engage. It's pretty uniform. There's no crazy deposits of metal where it's mushrooming or anything like that, where it's, you know, too soft or anything. Everything looks pretty decent. The cam lug looks pretty decent. There's a little bit of metal ridge here I can feel. It's kind of visible. I'll show that, where that's starting to peen a little bit, but that's, you know, pretty typical. We had actually the same issue on the V1 AK-50, so I'm pretty partial to that. I kind of understand that issue. The bolt carrier cam groove, everything looks pretty good. There's no real deformation there. That's not, you know, again, standard AK stuff after 6,000 rounds. Doesn't look like anything crazy. The tail is not mushroomed any sort of crazy. Like I said, this is all like really, really normal stuff. I've seen some really, really bad ones in the past where, you know, after 2,000 or 3,000 rounds, the tail is really mushroomed and deformed. Nothing crazy on this, just typical AK pattern stuff where you see you got the line in the middle where it rides over the hammer. Nothing crazy. The only thing that we need to check on now is the actual headspace and if it passes the go gauge or the no go gauge test. So on the RAS 47s, every time you saw one of those blow up, if you like go to like Google Images and find where they had, you know, out of battery detonations, or excuse me, out of headspace detonations from where they'd the trunnions would give out. That's why people rail against cast trunnions, and I'm no quiet critic of that. But this lower right lug is always what fails. You see it blow out the side where, you know, the receiver's warped and everything, and this part of the trunnion cracked. So this part here, you can definitely see there's a little bit more wear there on the front of the lug than anywhere else. That strikes me as kind of odd. What I would hazard to guess, and this is an educated guess, I just now saw this, is that it's starting to mushroom up a little bit, but because of the tolerances and the way the lug comes back over it, it's immediately riding it back over and riding it flush, because there's not really an edge there that you can feel. So that's an educated guess as to why it is, but you can definitely clearly tell there's a lot more wear there at the very corner of the lug than there is anywhere else, so it's not the bolt contacting it uniformly. Other than that, guys, I mean, there's really, the trunnion looks pretty decent for 6,000 rounds. And like I said, 6,000 rounds on an AK should be a given. Any good AK should last you to 60,000 plus, but it is still interesting that, you know, I don't think a RAS 47 would make it this far with this minimal wear. I'll put it that way. And so you can see, and I think the headspace actually has moved. I think it has changed, but it's still not failing on the no-go gauge test. But you can see it definitely wants to rotate there a little bit more than before. But by all accounts, it does actually pass the no-go gauge test. All right, so something I made a mental note of is how loose the bolt face is on the VSKA compared to like a standard AK. So please forgive how freaking dirty the AKG47 bolt is. This is from a post-dealer sample, full auto. We probably get 6,000-7,000 rounds through it, but we just filmed the Willet AK Part 2, so it's all still nasty from that. So I tried to clean it up a little bit, but it's still, you know, got surface rust and everything on it from that video. But here's our no-go gauge. So when you clip that in, the extractor there, you can swing it around a little bit. It's not really going anywhere because it's, you know, nice and tight. But if you go to the VSKA bolt face, you kind of clip that in, it'll fall right out. So it's very, very loose. And you can visibly see when you compare the two that the bolt face on this is actually larger. So I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just unique. It was something that I was able to take note of it without being told. So I'm not really sure why they did that, but it's interesting to take note of. All right, so this is probably the part that Century's not going to like so much. One of the problems or perceived problems with the VSKA that was brought up in the military arms test with James Yeager was that they were able to drive out the barrel pin with just a punch and a light hammer. It's supposed to be a tight press fit that is relatively tough on a 12-ton press. Like, this stuff is supposed to be like skipping. It is so tough. So being able to punch it out with a hammer and a punch is not the way it's supposed to be done. It's not the biggest deal in the world, frankly, because if it's not coming out under normal wear and tear, I really don't see it as that big of an issue. But it is an issue with stacking tolerances and stuff like that. So I figured it wouldn't be complete without at least checking that. So I haven't done anything to this one yet, so we're going to check it out. And this is after we're done with the whole 6,000 rounds. So we're going to start light. Okay, so I don't believe that's actually moving, so that's pretty light. I was literally just tapping it very lightly. Okay, I was kind of going a little harder on that one. We'll see what happens. Let's just tap it a little bit more. I really don't think we're getting a hell of a lot of movement on that, if at all. I can stick it on the hydraulic press and try to press it out, but honestly, guys, I don't see an issue with that barrel pin at all. That seems fairly tight to me. It's, at least if nothing else, it's exaggerated the problem with being able to push it out with a punch, because it's not coming out under normal use. And if I'm sitting here with a barrel pin size punch, tapping on it with a hammer and it's not moving, I don't see that as a buyer beware type of issue at all. All right, so for the sake of YouTube, now we're really going to move things along. Nope. That was the 6,000 round test. I really think I was just here to, you know, tell the internet and AK files that you're not full of shit and that we actually did run some rounds to the gun.
Well, hopefully they watched the video. I did run all the rounds through the gun, for sure. They're all documented in there. So, but yeah, threw another 1,000 through it. It's still, you know, passing Headspace, which is what folks always want to know. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're shooting at relatively short distances, so I can't gauge the accuracy. However, I will take this out and shoot some groups with it, see how it's doing with the rifling. had a little bit more wear from what I looked at, but again, like you, I don't think there's anything weird about it. Barrel, of course, still discolored because that's what happens when you shoot stuff and get it really hot with a phosphate finish. But no, otherwise it was okay. I think we had 4 malfunctions.
We had a little bit. Did we have 4 or 5, something like that?
And we put, just so you guys know, round count Nazis out there, we put 5 of those rounds. We put it back in the last mag that he shot. So,
Yeah,
to get it there, I think we fired 999 rounds. So 1 short.
So, fake and gay, not real 6,000.
Exactly. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what he said. I was pleasantly surprised in my video as well as it did. I didn't think it was going to do that well, and it's been okay. Again, full disclosure, Century sent the gun. But still, if they can, here's another theory on that too, right? So people were like, it's cherry picked. Well, if they can cherry pick a gun and make it right, they could probably make other guns right. At least I think so.
If the theory that they cherry picked the gun means that they know that most of their guns are shitty, and that they knew how to custom make one properly, so that's kind of an interesting.
It is.
Not to put it above and beyond that they didn't find one that was
Sure.
like, you know, the best headspace or something like that, but
Maybe.
it's not like they changed the parts. These are the same parts that are going to be on any other VSKA.
As far as I know. Yeah.
That was the most interesting part to me, is the actual part wear itself, and not necessarily the headspace, because headspace can be fixed. Parts, if you got a shitty trunnion, you're boned.
Yep. No, I agree. Actually, as I said in my video, the parts wear looks better than a lot of AKs I've seen over the years, not just US made ones.
Yeah. So I'm pleasant surprise. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you coming out here and doing the video with me, man. It's
Absolutely.
pretty cool. Getting to shoot one of these for the first time. I am, you know, like we said before, pleasantly surprised. So thank you guys for watching, and as always, I guess we'll see you guys on Monday. Thanks.
Yeah, it's not going to function like that.
Yeah, nope. I think we ran into a malfunction here. Rounds don't seem to want to feed.